Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with me today is Gabrielle Pimstone. She is a specialist in human response to change and fuses psychology with spirituality to help deepen and speed up change. Her topic is how to break through barriers by shifting your energetic state and talks about how to master your energy when going through big life transitions and how to find meaning and fulfillment in healing. That's a whole lot, Gabrielle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jill, and hi to your listeners. It's really good to be here.
That's awesome. So tell us how you got started on this journey, and then I've got like a bazillion questions to ask you about what you're doing. So.
Okay. Well, I actually got started at a young age. I was about 8 when I first had a very vivid dream, and I got out of bed and I sat on my windowsill and I tried to journal it and make sense of it. And I got really interested at a young age about both psychology and also spirituality. The psychological stuff was the easy part. The spirituality was the part that actually I shut down. And I remember after my father passed away, I was 9. About a year later, I asked my mom, I wanted to go see a medium. I had so many questions myself, and she said no. And so I put the spirituality on the back burner. And then when it came to tertiary education, it was a real no-brainer. I studied psychology at university, and then I went on to work in organizational psychology for about 27 years, big corporations. And then, you know, throughout my life, because of the work that I did, but also because I'm a little bit of a self-help junkie, I'd been in therapy my whole life. And in 2020, like a lot of people, it was the pandemic, but also I was in a job that I hated. It was a senior leadership role in a bank. And my anxiety that I'd lived with all my life was made worse by this leadership role. And so I woke up one Sunday morning and I had butterflies in my stomach, a sense of rising trepidation, sat on the bed, and I kind of tuned in and I asked the question, what is going on here? What is this about? And the answer that I got was that I was feeling this way because the following day was Monday and I had to dial into work. Took myself off, long story short, took myself off on a podcast, on a walk, listened to a podcast, and that woke me up to what I describe as this almost an invisible prison in my head, Jill. I'd been trapped in anxiety my whole life. And I realized on that walk that I had to do something different because all the psychological techniques that I'd been trying were no longer working. I started searching for a new modality, and energy mastery came my way. So that's it in a nutshell.
I love that. I can relate to it, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to the anxiety being a prison in your head.
Yes.
It's like once you see it for what it is, it's like, oh my gosh, how did I live so long like this?
Yes.
And we do it to ourselves.
We do. You know, there's that quote by Rumi, why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? We do it to ourselves because freedom is a choice away. And yet we keep ourselves by choice, consciously, unconsciously, stuck in these struggles that don't serve us. And I guess I got to a point in 2020 where I got sick of the struggle. But it was actually a little bit more than that. It was like there was a survival element to it, because I realized that if I didn't do something about what was going on in my life, I would cease functioning healthily. I would continue with my life, but healthy functioning would be a thing of the past. So there was a little bit of survival anxiety that was bubbling up. And I think, as someone who's worked in human transformation for so many years, that's one of the important things we need to change. We need a sense of survival anxiety. We need to be at a point where the life as it is so awful that the hassle of changing or the anxiety and fear of changing is overshadowed by what we're dealing with in our lives. So that was a good thing, and I embraced it.
I'm so glad you did, because now
So
you
am
are
I.
here with us to share your findings and to
Yeah.
help people really move beyond just the psychology of change, which is, it's been around for a long time, but the spiritual aspect of it, to merge the two together and to come up with something that's really pretty unique to you. That's fascinating. And so what does it look like when you try to help people break through the energetic barriers, and just like, how does that look?
How does it all happen? Oh, thanks, that's a great question. Before I answer that, it's probably useful to say what an energetic block is, and and how insidious they are, because what actually happens in life is that things happen to us. Let's just talk about childhood, because that's something a lot of people know, but what I'm about to tell you is equally applicable in the womb, in gestation, but also passed down from generation to generation. So blocks can form at different points in time, but let's use childhood as an example. We have experiences in our childhood that are traumatic, on a spectrum of trauma. Some of them are kind of, you just get pushed in the playground and you have a cry and something sits with you afterwards. In my case, capital T trauma. My father passed away when I was 9, but things happen. And when we're young, we can't make sense of it. We don't have the cognitive capacity to do that. And so we don't work through what happens to us. Now, everything that happens in life, our experiences, events, the meaning we place on them, the emotions that are evoked, the thoughts and beliefs that stem from them, all of these have they are just energy. They have an energetic frequency. And if we don't work through these events, the energy doesn't just disappear. It's got to be transmuted. And so if we don't do that, the energy sits with us. And what happens is it starts as a block in our auric field. Then as more and more and more events happen over life, it compounds. We get blocks in our chakras. And then when it's really deep, it can actually physically manifest in our physical body. So that's and that becomes like an invisible handbrake, Jill. Like, you start to experience repetitive patterns in your life that you can't make sense of, or you can't break. In my case, there was stuff around grief and loss and anxiety that 20, 30 years of therapy couldn't cure. So that's what we're facing into. And so when people come to me, that I'm helping them release that invisible handbrake. And what I'm doing is I'm employing a typical coaching process, which is, person is at point A, they want to get to point Z, and helping them look at what's getting in the way of that and helping them move forward. That's what coaching is about. But I overlay energy into it. And what I do is I help people go back to that inception point and release the energetic root of what's stopping them in the here and now. So that's kind of.
Are you doing that with hypnotherapy?
No, I'm not, but I do actually get people. It's interesting you say that, because hypnotherapy, when you do hypnotherapy, you get into what's called a theta state, or theta state, as you would call it in the States. And it's interesting, because now that I'm so kind of I've worked with my energy for so long now, I can get into theta state really quickly. And what that does is it helps when you're in a theta state, you've stepped back, you can see or hear what's going on around you, but you're not kind of not really in the movie. I actually don't intentionally, but sometimes get my clients into that. In fact, I had a client a couple of weeks ago who listened to one of my healings. I do evergreen healings, and said that she got into a theta state. So, so it's not hypnotherapy. What it is it's virtual hands-on healing. But I'm working with energetic structures that we call sacred geometry that allow me to travel across their timeline before birth and to find the inception point, the root of what's keeping them stuck now. And I do that through a number of modalities. Like I actually work with my hands, I work with these sacred geometry structures, but I've also activated my spiritual gifts. My intuition is on. And so if I'm reading your energy, I'm always looking for the root, and I can find it. Sometimes it's with pinpoint precision. Sometimes it's like, I'm sensing something happened in the womb. Let's talk about that. Or I'm sensing something in your maternal line. There's something about money in your maternal line, for argument's sake. And then we go into that. So it's, a lot of it is, I'm an intuitive healer and an intuitive coach as well.
Kind of like you have X-ray vision. I'm over here going, I wonder if she can see me.
you know what, Jill? Definitely not. I'm not in that mode. I'm not reading energy at the moment, but we all have it. This is the thing. Like, we've all got spiritual gifts. We've all got intuition. We've all got different spiritual gifts. We're born with them. And what happens is, when life starts happening as a young child, those go. We reject them. And for some lucky few of us, we actually find them again. And these gifts, intuition is like having an internal GPS. It's like a sat nav inside you. Yeah. It allows you to navigate life with so much greater ease, to make decisions from a place of clarity. And so it's not anything to be afraid of. It's something to really embrace. It's really, in my case and in people that I know and I've worked with, it really is the compass that we need to navigate through life.
It's interesting as the feminine energy kind of rises over the centuries or so of masculine energy dominance, that we're starting to embrace more of these intuitive gifts that we were given, and our mothers' voices, and our mothers were babies when they had us.
Absolutely.
When you're 20, you're not even done yourself, and you're having babies and you're trying to do the best you can, and you're gonna screw stuff up. And in the society that's gone on for the last, I'd say, 80 years, you've got disjointed families. So you don't have like the older people kind of shepherding the babies too, and helping the parents, move on in a logical way. Instead, they're just kind of like, they're trapped in their own trauma. They have no way of escaping. And the masculine energy model didn't really address that. They just wanted women to be men. We want you to work, and we want you to take care of kids, and we want you to have it all. You can have a career, and you can be a lawyer, and you can raise 3 kids and have a beautiful house and make sure everything is like Better Homes and Garden ready for them to come and take pictures of your house and your life. When, that's not how life is. Life is messy. And I love this feminine energy where there's, perfection is like, it's way overrated. You never find perfection in nature. There is nothing perfect in nature. It's all swirls.
Absolutely, it is. It really is. You're so right about this. The feminine principle is really gaining traction. And it's interesting that you say that, because I've noticed it in my own practice. In the beginning, my clients were mainly women. And now more men are consulting me. And so that's interesting, isn't it? There's something that is universal about introspection, search for meaning, openness, flexibility, learning, all the feminine stuff. And I think you're right, the energy planet-wide is kind of really rebalancing, and that's a really good thing.
I think it's an amazing thing. There's so many people, for the longest time, men were dying of heart attacks pretty young from the stress. And, again, a lot of it's trauma that's not resolved. They don't have the tools. They just knew that they had to provide for their family, and they weren't really equipped for it. So they would abuse alcohol or drugs. And, there's just like this horrible, vicious cycle of abuse and fear and all those things that they're not feel good things. And I don't think that's how we were designed to live. But now we've got these other tools that are becoming like more and more available to men and women, because women were starting to have heart attacks at young ages for the same reason that, you left your job. That just like the anxiety and pressure of some of these positions that are just like, what does it matter in the long run of things if the paper gets put in this pile or that pile?
And that's the perspective I wish so many more people would wake up to, that, and it's a matter of prioritizing what's important in life. For me, when I made that decision, my thyroid, I have always had Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroidism. It had been in remission for like over a decade, and it flared up again. I was sick. I wasn't sleeping. And, what's interesting about change is that, getting off the starting blocks, making that decision is the difficult thing for many of us. And most of us need it. We actually all need a catalyst. Otherwise, why would you change? And what I've come to understand is catalysts can come in two forms, and most of us choose the one form most of the time. The first and most common way we change is through crisis. We wait for the crisis to hit, and then we go, like in my case, there's a survival issue here. But there's a gentler way to change that most of us don't know about. And this is what I help people unlock in my coaching, which is change through insight. We all have moments in our lives. They may not, happen all the time, but when they happen, they're very powerful, where we have an aha moment, where suddenly we're able to join the dots and go, oh, I see this pattern, and I've been bringing it on in the following way. We might have a dream that gives us an incredible insight into what's happening in our inner world. There are those moments, and most of us ride over them, but actually those are also equally important catalysts for change, and they're less painful. And there's a part of me that wishes that I hadn't have waited for the crisis to hit. That, because I know there were a lot of learning moments before that, the 9th of August 2020, that Sunday when I woke up. There were a lot of more subtle but learning moments nevertheless, and I never grabbed them. And so the invitation for people listening is, don't wait for the crisis. Find moments where you can move forward with new insights.
Yeah, and then that's so important. If you're starting to feel like something's not right, listen to your gut, because you'll get those inklings. They start out slow and quiet. It's that still small voice. And it's real easy to just push it down and ignore it, but it will keep growing until it becomes a health crisis. And I've known people that, they ignored it, and it doesn't matter if you're working for a corporation or you're self-employed. And I think people that are self-employed, they're the worst, because they're just like, if I just work harder, and it doesn't work that way.
That's the masculine principle. That's the divine masculine. Work. Well, not the divine masculine, that's masculine energy. Work. The feminine principle, which is say, get your energy in the right place first and then apply yourself, like energy first, action second. So there are such differences between the masculine and the feminine energy. And I don't know if it's probably worthwhile saying that, you know, it's not gender based. Like as a
Right.
female, as a woman, I've got an internal divine masculine and divine feminine, the anima and the animus. And the challenge in life, one of the reasons we're on earth, is to balance those two. And so in my case, I had actually an overactive masculine, internal masculine. I was one of those people that what you've just said, work harder, push, 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 all of that stuff. And my learning journey has been to balance that with my divine feminine and to really trust in the divine timing of my life, to really let go, surrender, not in the sense of not doing anything, but in the sense of being receptive and open and flexible and being able to really morph with life. That is the divine feminine principle in action. And it's something I personally have to work on. And most of us have some kind of imbalance. You got to work out what yours is, and that's the journey.
Yeah. And working with someone like you that can look at your energetic state and help you kind of navigate where you are, because really the only way to get somewhere else is to identify the spot that you're in and then look for and ask for help, because you know, none of us was meant to go through this life alone.
You know, and I don't like the word help. I think that it's kind of conjures up images of helplessness, but ask for support. Maybe that's something that's more palatable for your viewers. But you know, one of the ways that I do it, as you were talking, I was thinking, you know, how do I tap into this energy? Yes, I do hands-on healing, I use sacred geometry, I do all of that stuff. But I actually also do very simple things. I pay attention to words, to the language that people use. So if I hear somebody saying things like, I can't sit still, or I can't not solve this problem, or, you know, that kind of language, that's an indication that under the waterline, you know, in their internal world, their masculine side, their masculine energy is overactivated. And so one of the ways that we can get insight into our energetic state, which is largely invisible, is through words, watching what we say to ourselves, watching how we speak to other people, and catching yourself in the moment and looking at this and saying, that's really interesting. I woke up one morning, it was a number of years ago, I'd had 8 hours of sleep, Jill. I was rested and I woke up, got out of bed and said out loud, I'm exhausted. And thought, I listened to myself and thought, what did I just say? And then I heard myself saying it over and over again. And over the next few days, I heard myself saying different iterations of that and realized that when I actually looked in, what was this about? My energetic state was in burnout. And even though I was physically rested, psychologically, I couldn't cope with what the demands of the day were going to bring to me. I didn't have the resources. So pay attention to your words. It's a simple way of really getting in touch.
And it starts with paying attention to your thoughts. You know, there's always something going through your mind, and you don't have to act on everything that drops in. You can just acknowledge that, oh yeah, that's interesting, and let it go.
Exactly. Yeah, we're in a constant inner monologue. It's actually, you know, it's crazy. If people could actually hear our inner monologue, we'd be carted off, you know.
It'd be very noisy when you got in crowds.
Very noisy. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So interesting.
Mm.
So
I guess
we were talking before we got started, you were talking about different energetic states exist all at the same time. Can you expand on that for just a second? Because I thought that was really fascinating.
Oh, yes. Okay, so the concept of time as we know it is linear as humans. We're taught there's the past, present, future, and it's like a linear timeline. But in reality, in any given moment, as I'm sitting here now, my energy fractals off. So there's an aspect of me, there's a version of me that is my past self. That's easy for us to understand because we access our past self through our memories. You know, if I said to you, what was the happiest birthday you had as a young child? You'd go back to your child, you'd access the past version of you to answer that question. Of course, the present version of us is easy to understand. That's me and you in conversation here. But what's difficult for people to wrap their heads around is there's actually a future version of you, and there are multiple future versions of you. That version of you that has already solved the problems that you're struggling with in the here and now. So this is the version of you that has learned the lessons, that has got the answers, that's got the wisdom. And what I teach, part of what I teach people is how to access the energetic frequency of the future version of themselves to help them pull it in and embody it, because change is all about energetic embodiment. You can talk until the cows come home, but real change happens when our state shifts, when our energy shifts. And so that's a really interesting thing, because part of, if you wanted to change your life, manifest something, there is a version of you that you can tap into in any point in time that gives you those answers. And you can really just pull the frequency in. So yeah, and I've got a really simple exercise that helps people do that. I've got a 20-minute masterclass. It's actually on my website. It's free. It takes you through the process, and it's simpler than you think.
I'm actually kind of excited about that, and I am going to go try it out.
Good.
And I will put the link for that in the show notes
Okay.
below when we're done, when this gets posted.
Yes. Awesome.
This has been so fascinating. Energy is one of those things that it's just like, it's everything. It's how we exist. Without energy, we would not be. It is the I am. It's because it exists or nothing exists.
Exactly.
And I have another thought about time. You're in tomorrow. We were joking about this before we came on.
Yes.
I always tease people from Australia about this. But this is a perfect example of time not being linear, because for you, it's tomorrow morning. For me, it's the day before in the evening.
Exactly.
And yet we're together in space because we exist but don't exist on this screen where we're talking to each other.
Yeah. Well said.
Hundreds, I don't know how many thousands of miles apart we are.
Exactly.
But in this moment, time does not exist. It's just us.
Yes.
Sitting here in this frame, these frames.
Yes. It's just, you know what, as we've got to, excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat suddenly. We have to throw out our, I'm going to have a coughing fit. Hold on.
Yeah, that's good. That's fine. I hate when that happens too. When I first got started, I had a cold and I had COVID is really what happened.
Right.
And I was just like coughing and coughing and coughing.
Oh, wow.
It's just like, keep talking because I can't talk.
I like these moments though. I hope you don't edit this out. It makes me more human. It makes all of us human.
I don't edit anything.
Yeah. The idea is that if, you know, one of the things I always tell people that I work with, and I actually sometimes have to tell myself this as well, is your mind doesn't have to be on board for all of this to work. In fact, if we try to understand this idea of living across different times, you know, different time and space, and we've imploded. We're not designed to understand everything, and we're certainly not designed to understand the machinations of energy. And so the invitation for people is to really just lean into the process and watch and see what happens, and to actually take your mind and park it, leave it at the door, so it doesn't get in the way of the magic and the beauty of this modality.
That's so beautiful. And it's so simple, but as human beings, we like to make everything much more difficult.
We do. We definitely do. I know about that myself personally. Yeah.
I think it's just part of being human, but I love that you're doing these things. How do people work with you? Do you do one-on-one or groups or both online?
I do both. I have a 28 days to healing group process. It's a bite-sized transformation process. You bring one thing you want to shift in your life within a month, 28 days. And it's a small group process. It's intimate. It's non-threatening. It's all virtual, by the way. And that's my group, my flagship group program. And then I've got about 6 or 7 different one-on-one coaching programs to suit different people's needs. Anything from like a 1-week coaching strategy week where, you've got 2 hours with me on Monday, an hour on Wednesday, and 2 hours the following Monday, all the way up to a 12-month coaching program. And there are lots of versions in between. And most people pick between 3 and 6 months because it does take time to shift things. And some of them bring more than one issue to the table. So yeah, so it's both. It's individual and it's group coaching, both of those.
And how would they get a hold of you?
Probably go to my website, generativegrowth.com.au, or follow me on LinkedIn or follow me on Instagram. Those are the 2 social media platforms that I'm most active on.
Perfect. And we will put those links in the show notes as well, so people can get in touch with you. And don't forget the 20-minute experiential masterclass entitled Journey Through Time, a guide to connecting with your future self. I'm really excited to go try this out.
Enjoy every moment. Let me know how it goes.
I will for sure. Thank you so much for joining me, Gabrielle. Can you sum up what you want the audience to take away from our conversation?
Well, actually, you said it a few minutes ago that energy is everything. I think you said that. I say it slightly differently. It's the same thing. Energy runs the show. And if you want real transformation in your life, you've got to start working at that level. It's the quickest and it's the most, sustainable way of shifting things and achieving change in your life.
Perfect. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.